Alright. So I know we talked a lot before, but still, like, can you introduce yourself for the audience?
Absolutely. So my name is Emeka Ako. I'm going to my third year in pro basketball. Currently, I'm the head strength coach for the New Orleans Pelicans G League team Birmingham Squadron. Um, I think this is probably my 13th year as a strength and conditioning coach between like the private, tactical, and pro setting. But yeah, excited to be on the pod.
Nice, nice. So, um, 13 years of experience and last 3 years is in the NBA G League. So can you share like your journey from the beginning until like now?
For sure. Um, First, I kind of wanted to be like everybody else. I want to do physical therapy school. A little background: I'm Nigerian. As a Nigerian kid, all we know is doctor, lawyer, engineer. When I presented to my mom and dad that I want to be a physical therapist, they're like, "What is that?" When they saw that it was actually a good profession and I could still be around fitness, they agreed to that happening. So I went to UGA, University of Georgia, majoring in exercise sports science. Um, at that time, I was trying to decide, do I want to be an athletic trainer so I could be really good with my hands going to PT school, or do I want to be more of on the applied side and really use my eyes and be a personal trainer to get into PT school? So I decided to go with the latter and become a personal trainer. So I got my first personal training cert through ACE. I was an ACE certified personal trainer my junior and senior year when I got into the program. Um, and it was hard at first. I can't lie to you. Taking biomechanics, exercise physiology, those first 2 or 3 months training, I would watch people squat, and the squats were horrendous. And I'm like right beside that client, and I'm looking at them with my arms folded in the back of my head, like, what motor moron? Why can't they get the squat the right way? I'm following everything that's in the biomechanics book, and they're still not squatting the right way. I would go to my biomechanics professor and tell her, like, hey, I'm following everything that's in the textbook, but these people are still not getting the technique that I want. And then all the resources that she still gave me was still falling short. So I had to kind of do my own education. I had a really good personal training manager who introduced me to like the FMS by Gray Cook. He introduced me to Charlie Weingroff. He introduced me to Mike Boyle. These are like the people that I started to pay attention to. He introduced me to Lauren Landau. And then some other, then I kind of did my own research and I got introduced to Exos, which at the time was called Athlete's Performance, the first book I ever read, if I'm not mistaken. That was the first chance I saw in a facility the strength coach, the physical therapist, and sport coach all work under one roof, and the athlete can see all those different legs of human performance in one day. I thought in my head, how cool would it be to work for them? Um, so after doing my own research and following those people, I started kind of get a hang of it. My second year as a personal trainer, took the GRE, didn't really do too well. My athletic training professor said, Mecca, your GRE scores definitely get you in PT school, but you should look at strength and conditioning. I was like, what is that? It sounds like a glorified personal trainer. I did my research. I guess I saw it could be a good career because if you look at the football salaries, they were massive. They're still massive. So I went to Georgia College and ended up becoming a GA. There I worked with the men and women's basketball team, men and women's tennis, and then I also worked with one more sport I can't remember. Oh, women's volleyball. So let's I guess a lot of overhead athletes. I think that opportunity was unique compared to other people who do become a GA at big schools like UNC or University of Georgia, because there they have to kind of follow the program and they don't get a chance to program themselves. In our program, it was kind of unique because every month we would have to present to my professor what our program was while we did our program, and he would just bleed it like, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? What effect do you want to have? And so I think that program, from taking the classes and being a GA and writing our own programs there, really gave me the opportunity to learn how to critically think. Um, I'll tell you a story. I remember my first conditioning class with the volleyball team, we had 13 battle ropes suspended upon a pole. And the idea was to do a battle rope variation for 20, 30 seconds, rest about 30, do another rope, 20, 30 seconds, and then do an active recovery around the track for 40 seconds. It would go from starting 20-minute total time up to 40 minutes. So that first day, he was there. He showed me all the battle ropes. He was there for the first 5 minutes and said, Mecca, you know what? I have to go to class, but you have it. In the back of my head is like, how the heck am I going to memorize all those battle rope variations that you told me? But I guess that was the first chance that he taught me how to adapt on the fly, and I kind of had to figure it out. So without being long-winded, that's how my program was at Georgia College. We got a chance to program ourselves. I got this barefoot training certification because I kind of got enamored with the foot because we didn't really know at that time how much does the foot play a factor in performance. So I looked at the foot and vertical jump. Um, got done with grad school, had a really good internship at Eric Cressy. At that time, I actually got an internship accepted to Eric Cressy and Exos, but Cressy gave me the internship first, so I had to take that. That was my first chance to really get a chance to learn a system. They took us from learning movements on the table. We got a chance to learn some manual techniques. From there, we got a chance to know, like, okay, whatever you found that was weak on the table, this is the mobility exercise you should give that person. This is the stability exercise you should give that person. This is dynamic warm exercises, and this is the strength variations you should give that person to still achieve the goal of like improving strength and power, but also addressing those type of movement deficiencies that that person had. Um, we work, at Cressy. If you don't know who Cressy Performance is, we work with, a lot of baseball players, pro golfers. I think Serena Williams was down there training with us for a little bit. Got done with that. Um, I was able to get a call about a job with the Padres. Never applied for it. Somebody hit me up and said, "What do you think about working in pro baseball?" I said, "Shoot, yes." It was like 3 months after the internship. Next 2 days, I was on the phone with interviews, and then I got hired right away. So that was the first pro job. Never applied for it. Did that for a year. A great opportunity. This is 2016. I got a chance to know another system and seeing how it actually works on the pro setting. When you have to deal with time constraints because you only have a certain amount of time with athletes in the weight room because they still have to do the sports skill stuff. Um, got done with the Padres in 16, 17. I was back home personal training, still wanted to stay relevant. Some people told me about IMG Academy. So I did like an externship there for 4 months. Uh, that really taught you how to develop a coaching voice because there were some sessions it would just be two of us with 100 kids. How that session would be broken down is 50 kids would be outside doing speed and agility for the first 30 minutes while the other people are lifting. And then after 30 minutes, we would switch. So with those young kids, you had to be really concise with your coaching cues. You had to say cues that relate to them, and you really had to develop a coaching voice, or you wouldn't be heard with that loud population, that big population. So 2017 IMG, 2018 and 19, I got a job with that company that I was reading about when I was in college, which was Exos. That was an amazing opportunity. Uh, I work with firefighters and police. That's like my first experience with soft tactical. We worked with the sister soccer team to FC Dallas, which was Energy FC. At that time, I worked with Gym Pop. That really taught me how to build a working engine because I was working 79 hours, if you could believe it, in a week. That came out to 15 hours a day. And it was 13 sessions in 15 hours. We started at 5:30 in the morning and we wouldn't get done to 8:30 p.m. at night. Um, so that was a crazy opportunity. It really taught you how to adapt and really optimize the coaching environment. 2018-19 was Exos. 2020, I got a job in the military because I went to a tactical conference, came back from it. 4 people kept hitting me up about tactical jobs, never applied for this job. They told me about this position open in Phoenix. I used to live there in 16. I said, why not? So 2020 to 22, I was working with the Air Force fighter pilots. That was an amazing opportunity. Got a chance to go on a couple of fighter jets, go to Top Guns and see their culture. Um, some of the best critically thinkers I've ever met in my life. Got done with that opportunity in 2022, and then I took a job in pro basketball in 22, and that job I never applied to either, just for my network. Um, there was a position to open up with the Pelicans, and I got referred to it. And after a couple of phone interviews, here I am now.
Nice, nice, nice. So, mm, you work under like Eric Cressy, Exos, some great names, and I know you know Dennis Logan, right? So,
Man, Dennis Logan, that's one of my favorite coaches, man. Big brother,
man,
all
he's
time great.
nice. He's nice. Uh, like, how do you think like the past experience help you grow as a coach, and how did that help you like now when you work at pro setting?
That's a great question. I think my past experience gave me a couple tool sets. It taught me systems, and with systems, you know how to optimize your time constraint, whether you have 20, 30 minutes or hour with people. Um, it taught me how to develop a coaching voice and use cues that are going to relate to people. And then it taught me adaptability because I work with all different types of population at all different ages. And how has that helped me as a coach today? When I first got in basketball, you know, there's a lot of hats you have to wear. You know, in the G League, it's crazy. You have to be the strength coach, sports scientist, and you have to be the full-time dietitian. I think from the strength and conditioning standpoint, it was just knowing what basketball players need specifically to stay healthy, and then still keep the general stuff that we always know from strength and conditioning the main thing. Um, and then you sometimes you would go into different arenas with limited equipment, but you know, for the previous experience, you kind of learn your plan B. Okay, if I'm going to do a two-leg exercise, but I don't have the equipment for that, what other two-leg exercise variation can I do? From the nutrition standpoint, I think my personal training experience helped me do that because, you know, as a personal trainer, you have to deal with people's nutrition all the time, whether they want to lose weight or build muscle mass.
Nice, nice. Because um there's always young coaches want to like go to pro setting when
Mhm.
they kind of don't have like enough experience. So uh I always thought that those coaches who already have like tons of experience will probably for them be easier to adapt to like different situation, adapt to like the culture. So, and now you work at the NBA G League, like crazy schedule, like very hectic. I know, like at Pelican, you guys use Daniel's like quadra system. So, can you talk a little bit about like how you program for like your athlete during the season?
For sure. I can't give out too many secrets, but you know, in the basketball setting, we have to microdose. You know, so what does that mean? Instead of how we normally do pro training of 30 minutes to an hour, we have to give them small sessions at 15 minutes. So in basketball, typically on the G League level, we have 2 to 3 games a week. NBA levels 3 to 4 games a week. So with that being said, we kind of make sure every week we want to have a strength day. So it's going to be a heavy lift. We typically have 2 tendon loading days, and then we typically have a power day, which is kind of a potentiation. So how it's normally structured, I think 3 days out before a game in an ideal week, we would do a heavy lift. The next day would be tendon loading. The day before the game would be more of a power potentiation. And then on game day will probably be like another tendon loading day. And then usually when they don't play games, the next day is kind of recovery. So as far as the quadrant system goes, quadrant 4 is like a highest intensity day. That's usually like max strength. Quadrant three is more of like explosive days. Quadrant three. Quadrant two is more of a like hypertrophy day or tendon loading or upper body day. And then quadrant one is just rest. So it could be complete rest or it could be a yoga session, Pilates session, or something regenerative.
Cool. So, how like I know, like you mentioned, sometimes enter different gyms like don't have enough equipment. So, like, how exactly is it like? I know like put it into like four quadrant, but like if you let's say if you want to do a max strength day, but if you don't have enough equipment, like do you switch it to like single leg or like how do you load?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first, I'll look at the program. For us in season, I definitely got to have a heavy day, two tendon loading days, and then a power day. Um, if I know if I know we're going to be on the road, I try to get that heavy strength day while we're at home because I know I have access to that equipment. And then I already know on the road I can find some way to do variations for the tendon loading day or the power day to keep it
Nice.
simple. But there's some teams like OKC, we know they have a full weight room. So I may, depending on the week or how our game schedule is, I may do the tendon loading at home and then wait to OKC to do the heavy strength day post game.
Cool. Cool.
One thing I'll probably say, for us, since basketball is such a quad dominant sport, we still got to build some type of strength resiliency in the posterior lower body. So our typical go-to is trap bar deadlift for strength. Um, if you're away and you don't have a trap bar, we typically do Nordics. Um, Usually kind of it's about a 3 second eccentric on the way down. So that kind of is our plan B for our heavy deadlift day.
Nice. Nice. Sorry. So, uh, I also noticed that you have like SFMA and FMS. Do you like how do you think like SFMA and FMS help you like understand like movements, and do you use like these movement assessment when you let's say test your athlete?
That's a great question. Hopefully nobody pigeonholes me because I know some people are anti FMS, SFMA, anti PRI or DNS. For me, it just gives me a lens because that's how I was brought up. Um, why do I even choose a movement test? Is probably a first question. Is because I'm gonna take Charlie Weingroff's quote. I want to make sure your joints can get into the right position to absorb and adapt to stress. So if you have to do some type of squatting in your sport, can you get into a decent squat? Because if you can and your joints can stack up the right way, I believe you can absorb forces in decent directions so you can adapt. If you have to get into like a layup and it looks like a hurdle step or a step up or a single leg stance, how does that look? If you can't give me single leg stance, then you may have a hard time anytime you have to express that in your sport. So that's why I chose the FMS. And how do I use it? I've always used it um, when I first started training people. And then that's kind of helped me program their movement correctives and then also their lifts. If you want me to kind of go a little bit more in detail, let's say an athlete didn't have a good squat. Let's say falls from the squat on the FMS. Let's say they got a two or barely a two, but we knew the trunk came too far forward and both feet were excellent rotating. Let's say I see somewhere else in the FMS that it told me like their ankles are super stiff. So then I know I need to give them a little bit more ankle dorsiflexion. And maybe the SFMA, that leads me to SFMA test where I really do look at the ankles and the ankles do show up short. So in their movement corrective, they're definitely going to get like an ankle dorsiflexion test, the exercise. Um, And then how I'm gonna load that, I'm probably gonna do like some type of split squat. Because now that I got you some more ankle dorsiflexion with the band or whatever variation, now in the weight room, I want to teach that same ankle under load to be stable just so it can stick. Um, so that kind of chases the ankle. If the posture came too far forward, most people are like, oh, the hip flexors are too tight, but it could be a myriad of things. All I know is when they're doing their correctives, when they're doing their dynamic warm up, when they're doing their lift exercise I give them, the goal for them is to have a tall posture. And how I cue them or put them in the environment have a tall posture, it's a dance.
Nice, because I'm always interested in like movement assessment, and I know like SFMA is kind of more for like physical therapists, but I'm interested in like I was interested in how you cooperate, like how you put those into your like your programming. So like you mentioned, like corrective. So uh is it like you mentioned, like 15 minutes a session? Is it how do you put like those corrective into like those 15-minute session?
Good. Now, to answer your question, is it just me, or am I also working with another leg, like a physical therapist, athletic trainer?
Probably just you.
Okay. So let's say it's just me, and I did the FMS and SFMA, and let's say we see a number of things, 5 or 6 things wrong with them. I'm going to choose a top 1 or 2 things that stick out the most to me, and that's what I'm going to chase. Typically, I'm always looking at posture first. With the different variations of the movement test, can they give me the ideal posture? If it's not good, I'm going to make sure I coach posture. And then we're going to look at the legs. And then I got to determine, is it the hip or the ankle that's at biggest fault? And that's what I'm going to bleed my correctives into. And then also on the lift. Um, so let's say the biggest, again, if I take that same example of the squat, they're doing the hurdle step and they're doing the, the lunge, and they just kept trunk flexing. So I know I want to coach tall posture, and I also want to coach like a stable foot. So the foot shouldn't rotate at all, because in the squat they tend to rotate their feet. So in the correctives, I would probably throw like a bird dog in there for stability. Um, I'd probably throw some type of like squat variation, like an overhead squat, and I may do heels elevated. And maybe, well, you're not really challenging the ankles yet, but I'm challenging vertical posture. And then I may do like a banded ankle dorsiflexion walk with the foot elevated, like on a bench or whatever. So again, in my correctives, I kind of want to keep it within 5 or 6 minutes. So I may choose 1 or 2 mobility exercises, 1 or 2 stability exercises. So that'll be in a 5 minute block. And then for our dynamic warm up, if we have time, I'll probably try to spend no more than 5 or 10 minutes for that. So that would give me 15 minutes tops. So if dynamic warm up is 10 minutes, corrective is 5, that's 15 minutes. And then if I had 30 minutes to lift, then I just run my blocks, whether I'm going to do 3 blocks or 2 blocks. That's going to determine if I have 30 minutes to lift for only 20 minutes. And so that's how I would kind of program in an hour.
What happens if you like only have 20 minutes?
Okay, so if I only had 20 minutes with somebody, the correctives are only going to be 5 minutes. And whatever my movement test is, again, I'm going to choose the two most limiting pieces, whether it's the posture, typically the hip or the ankle. So it's 5 minutes of correctives. I may do something quickly to get the heart rate up. So some type of quick calisthenics, about 3 to 5 minutes. So at most 10 minutes. And so now they're prepped for the session. And then 10 minutes of lifting. I'll kind of probably put it in a circuit. So I'll probably put like 5 exercises. It depends on how many times I'm going to see that person a week. If I'm going to see that person 5 times a week, then, I can make that an upper body circuit. If I'm going to see that person like 3 times a week, I'm probably going to make it more total body. So how that would be broken down to is I'm going to pick a lower push, whether it's 2 leg, 1 leg, and then I put pull. So if I go 2 leg on the push, I'm gonna go unilateral on the pull, and I'm gonna do an upper and lower body. That's 4. And then my fifth exercise is gonna be either a core exercise or a power exercise, and then we'll just kind of keep repeating that circuit for 3 or 4 sets, and that should kind of bleed out 10 minutes.
Nice, nice, nice. I like it. I like it. So, next question is like, since you already have
Mhm.
like 13 years of experience working with, as a strength and conditioning coach, um, what is it like when you started as a strength coach, and what's the difference like now? Like, I know like Geely probably don't have all those technology, but like you get exposed to like the knowledge of like force plate, GPS. So, do you think that those kind of like change the way you view training, or just tools to help you?
Great question. I'm gonna kind of break that answer in kind of like two buckets. The first question is for me, like, how have I viewed training from when I started to now? I think when I first started, like any young coach that starts and who wants to be good, you want to try to accumulate as much knowledge as possible so you can be competent. So you're doing all the research reading, you're taking all the certifications, you're going to shadow all the top coaches out there, and you're trying to figure out the best sauce, to make this dish of a session. As I've gotten older, I guess you kind of have the knowledge now, and it's less more of like trying to find the best sauce or program. It's more of like trying to build more of a relationship and a rapport with the person in front of me, like get to know them. And what I mean by that, this is kind of getting to that second part of my question. When you get to know somebody, that's creating your data points. For example, if you have an individual person or you're working in a team setting and that athlete's always dapping people up, hey, what's going on today, guys? Y'all ready to go? They're playing their favorite music. But then you see 3 days in a row that athlete comes into the weight room and they're quiet. They kind of keep their head down. They don't dap anybody up. Well, to me, that's a red flag. Why are they so quiet? Why aren't they dapping people up? Why are they reserving their energy? Is it because they didn't get sleep? Is that because they partied? Is there something going on at home? Is there something that that's kind of like people that are in their ear that they feel like is not like representing their goals? So those are red flags. And so now when the session starts, before it starts, while they're on the floor rolling around, I give them some type of relatedness, which is hand gesture. So if I dap them up, give them a fist bump, however I normally do it on a daily basis, I want to make sure I first greet them like that. That kind of shows them that I care if I'm consistent with that. And then I make sure my tone of voice and body posture is right. So if I'm always amped up and they amped up but they ain't amped up that day, I'm gonna match their body posture. I'm not gonna be as amped up when I go to them. And I may say something small like, "Hey, you good?" They probably won't open up there. They'll be like, "Yeah, I'm good." While they get to the session and we start to lift, I go over there. I may not cue them up so much, but hey, just try not to do this. And then, I start to peel in more questions like, how was yesterday? Open in the questions. How's everything back home? Open in the questions. And if I have a relationship with that person, the athlete will start opening up because, they're working out, they're sweating, good things are happening. Now they can kind of divulge more information. If I don't get the information I want then, while we're doing the dynamic warm up as a group, I'm gonna coach everybody up, but I'm gonna go to them while they're warming up, get another touch point, get more information. After practice in the basketball study, I'm gonna go sit down, talk to them, get more information. So to answer your question, now that I've gotten older, I tend to build more relationships and really get to know the athlete more, and that's kind of creates my data points. So if If I feel like they're fatigued or they're stressed out, and stress can come from psychological or physical, I kind of see that from like how they show themselves when they walk in, when they're doing the strength lifts. If I feel like that speed is not as much as they normally do, or they're supposed to go 5 or 10 pounds more weight on the bench press or squat, and they can't even give me the same weight as last week, that's another red flag. And then if you have the relationship, you can ask a person what's going on. They'll tell you why, you know, they can't do it. Is it injury, or is it lack of recovery, or lack of nutrition because they didn't eat, or is it psychological, you know? And so, but now with the sports science, how has it changed how I view training? Um, I think it gives us more objective measures that you can show to the higher up people, because everybody's an investment these days, at least in our setting. People in college are making more money with the NIL deal and in the NBA. So if that's the asset, we want to protect that asset, and we want to see the development of that asset. So at least sports technology, it can give you metrics that you can show to the people higher up, like this is how that person's doing. And it may help guide your training, but for me, it shouldn't be the end all, because it's going to be a gray area where technology can't pick up. But you as a human in your relationship with the athlete, you can pick up those data points. And the better you can understand tech, but and still try to fill the bucket of building a relationship with that person and paying attention to them on a daily basis, can you help fill in the gray area to really optimize performance?
Man, this is gold. This is gold. I love this. So, um, the next thing I want to ask is like you mentioned, you work with a lot of like great names like Eric Cressy, Exos, Dan Logan. Now I work under like Daniel Bove. Daniel Bove had like Quadra system and the new book.
Take
So
off.
yeah, take off. Thank you. So
Got it.
um how like and like all those technology. So how do you like put all those system into like your brain or like your yeah and like put it together to and make it your own system?
Great question. Um, I think, and I could be wrong, maybe I'm just speaking for myself. We're biased as humans to hold on to the information that we first learned. So if I'm in this space as a strength coach, or if I was a physical therapist, then you have to choose your mentors wisely. I think, like everybody says, that's a golden rule. It holds true, because those first mentors and the first couple things you read about your space is going to kind of build your knowledge. And then every knowledge that you accumulate after that, you're either, if you're not curious, you're going to refute it and be like, no, no, I can't believe that. I can't trust that. It goes against what I believe. Because what you learn first is what you believe. But if you have a curious mind, whatever you learned in the beginning, as you're getting more information, you're trying to determine if there's a conflict. Is this new information, do I believe it to be true? And maybe that kicks out some of the old stuff that you had in your head. So for me, I was blessed to start to have like a system um, from a movement standpoint, because I started out with FMS and SFMA. I go to Cressy, which is a bleed of more like pinpoint bleed of SFMA, which SFMA is really just table orthopedic test. So at the smallest level is table orthopedic test. Layer 2 is SFMA. Layer 3 is FMS. And once I can determine George get right position, then we know how to streamline training. And then different systems that I've learned, like PRI or DNS. Let's say somebody has lower back pain, and there's somebody, and they're an athlete who's always stuck in extension. That may tell me to use some PRI exercises in their correctives. And I may take the PRI kind of like philosophy and training for them to teach them to really round shoulder blades and kind of tuck the hip under in training. Because if I believe too much lumbar extension is robbing them for hip mobility. But it still all goes around my system as FMS and SFMA. And then from like a strength training standpoint, I maybe I'm biased. I still haven't found a better product than like Exos XPS. But before they even came out with that, if you've been following all their products before, you know, they kind of told you that, from power training, strength training, all that stuff. So, you know, everything that I read now is just like, just it's just a little bit of a different type of seasoning. And I determine whether I want to use this seasoning now or do I just put it in the back of my mind for later.
Man, I love this. I love this. Although I'll say like I probably start from SFM, sorry, I probably start from XL's XPS, then SFMA, then FMS. But like I agree with like start from the movement, watching how athlete moves, build a relationship with the athletes, then other stuff are just seasoning flavors. I love that. I love that.
I'll also say, like, if you don't start with the system that's all encompassing, and what I mean by all encompassing, that looks at like orthopedics, and which is like a movement test, and that looks at strength, but then still understands like how nutrition plays a factor, and also repeatability, which we talk about is conditioning. If you don't have a system that's all encompassing, and in psychology and motor, if you don't have a system that's all encompassing, and you start off at a sports team, and now with tech, you're getting all these different data points and metrics, and now you're running crazy. Like, how do I put all this stuff into training? And you don't know what to do because you don't have a base. you know. So always start, to me, being biased, always starting off in a pro setting or something that's so specialized is not the ticket to me if you want to be optimal, because you're not gonna know how to condense it, you know, or filter it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always think it's in the private sector or even as a personal trainer, just learn, coach everybody, develop your own system, but have good mentors and learn things that are all encompassing. And for me, all encompassing is like orthopedic. So you got to have movement tests that can talk about that type of stuff. Um, you got to have stuff that talks about motor learning. So whether you follow Nick Winkelman or Gabrielle Wolf, and just know how to like coordinate movement patterns. And then you got the fitness aspect. You should follow a system that talks about strength and power, and different variations of how to do power, whether it's like Olympic lifts, Olympic lift variations with med ball, stuff with the body like jumping and sprinting and knowing the technique that's behind it. Nutrition, you should know about nutrition, caloric intake, all that type of stuff. And then, from a testing, you should know about testing, and testing's orthopedic, testing's blood work. Um, you know, it could be a lot of other more things too, depending on the cause. We should all have a general understanding of everything, even if
Nice.
it's not even if it's not your lane. But now you can kind of see whatever you're doing, you're seeing how your leg is affecting the organism to move better. If you can understand things that are all encompassing.
Nice. Nice. I like it. That's like I'll say that's this whole podcast is probably like great for those young coaches who want to work at pro setting, who want to grow as a coach. Man, this is good. This is good. I like it. So, uh, I think that's all the question I have for you today. For those who are interested in what we're talking about today, where can they reach out to you?
Before we go there, I remember we were talking about before we jumped on the pod, like how do you adapt your training from session to session? Because I may have a plan A going to the session,
Yeah,
and whether I'm working with one people, how do you change the exercises based off what the athlete presents and stuff? I know we were talking about that.
yeah,
And for me, how to adapt the session, I kind of live under 5 P's: pain, position, pattern, power, and performance. Again, my 5 P's are pain, position, pattern, power, performance. So I know the objective I want to do for today. I believe you should do no harm. If I give an athlete an exercise and that exercise is painful for them, meaning their joints don't like to wait to be stacked in this squat variation or this split squat variation or this single leg stance variation or this closed chain upper body variation for the day, I may quickly choose like a plan B that kind of mimics it. If that's still causing them pain, then maybe I don't expose those joints with load and I chase it with something else. So first, if it causes you pain, can I give you another exercise variation that doesn't cause pain? If that causes you pain, can I give you that same exercise variation and do it assisted so that you're not loading so much? If that still causes you pain, then I'm not going to use those joints for that session. I'm gonna use other joints to input fitness and hopefully that achieves the body. Now, exercise that we can do that don't cause you pain. Now we can chase number two, position. I want to see, can you get in the right position? Our testing that we do, the FMS and SFMA, it tells you, can the person get in the right position? Your dynamic warm-ups that you do every day, it tells you, can you get in the right position? And when it's time for test day, which is every day in the weight room, you learn, can they get in the right position? So if they can get in the right position, now we can move on to the third P, or third P, which is performance. I mean pattern. Power. And with power, we can. I'm looking at strength and speed. So if you can get in the right uh, position, now we can pattern that exercise. Meaning, does it look good from point A to point B? And if that looks good, we can chase power. Now let's really add the load. And once that load's good, now let's take that load and ramp it up for speed. Because remember, tendons don't like fast movement. But if you have a good base of strength and you can get in the right position, then it can tolerate that. And then if the power is good, now we're looking at the overall performance. You got 10 reps. Were you successful 7 out of 10? And if you weren't successful 7 out of 10 from a performance standpoint, then we look at the other 4 P's in my head. Why wasn't it successful? Is it because it's painful? One, is it because you can't get in the right position, but my testing told you that? Is it you just don't know how to coordinate pattern, or you don't have certain power requisites, which is either strength or like speed, velocity? Because power is force times distance over time. So power, do you have the force? And the distance over time is velocity, which is speed. And then maybe you have those two, but you don't have repeatability. You're good, but the third and fourth set, you can't. It's painful. So now, okay, we just stopped 3 sets that week, even though we're supposed to go to 4. But the next week we're going to do 4. If you recover the right way, your body should adapt, and now we can add more layers to the body. If that makes sense.
yeah, of course, of course. I like it. I like it. I'm sorry, I put that into my notes, but I didn't go that way.
Yeah, man. Um, yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, nice.
Um,
So, same for those who are interested in what we're talking about today, where can they reach out to you?
um, I mean, I don't have much information on my social media, but you can connect with me on my LinkedIn. I think my LinkedIn is Emeka Ako. I think I have like two LinkedIn accounts. EMEKA, and then last name is AKOH. And I think my Instagram account is Emeka EMEKA 0788. You can reach out to me if you have any questions, and I don't have much answers, but I do have a big network, and I can refer you to the right person or the right resource to kind of answer the questions you're looking for. But
Nice, nice.